What's up, guys? Homegrown Big coming at you with a post-workout mukbang, however you say it. Been a while since I've been on posting up videos. I had a computer virus take over my computer and had to get everything off of it, and then a bunch of garbage you don't need to know about. But we're back in business, and I've got a new position at work, and it's been super busy. A lot of responsibility, and I've been pulling some pretty long hours. Plus, we've got the gardening going and preserving food. I'm starting the freezer to fill up the freezer. So not a lot of time for doing videos, but nonetheless, I got a minute here. I did a huge workout today, deadlifts. Really pushing hard. I'm going to get up to 400 pounds on my deadlift soon, which at 148 is pretty good. Not quite where my ultimate goals are, but that's my intermediary goals right now. I've got this post-workout meal, which is 9 eggs with leftover turkey, a leftover turkey burger patty, and some leftover steak, avocado, some cherries. I won't eat all of these cherries. I just kind of graze on them until I'm satisfied. But this is kind of the bulk of it here. I got a little bit of sauerkraut. Get some probiotics in there. I eat a lot of sauerkraut. This is organic raw sauerkraut, and I normally make my own, but I've run out, so I gotta do what I gotta do. So that's where things are. I'm kind of in this like post powerlifting meet bliss. There's a lot of things that happen when you do competitive athletics. I personally have never felt such a good natural high from a sport as I do powerlifting. And I feel like that with when you recover well and you're successful at it, pretty much shows how your genetics are. Like a lot of times with running, I never felt like that. Running really felt like it beat me up quite a bit. I did get okay at it, definitely in the upper 20 percentile of whatever race I did. I did take a couple of lower podium places, but it never felt just really natural for me, and powerlifting does. And the powerlifting community is just so cool. I highly recommend it for anyone who's thinking about getting into some sort of strength training. I think that the powerlifting genre of strength training is, in my opinion, much more healthy than doing physique or bodybuilding. And the reason for that is that you don't have to diet. So I think that there's a lot of disordered eating in physique and bodybuilding. And maybe a little bit in powerlifting, but I think that for amateur athletes, you can not have that be an issue. But I do see a lot of amateur athletes in physique and bikini and bodybuilding really getting into disordered eating. And I feel like for me, that's where kind of my whole start of diet experimentation that kind of led me astray began. It was maybe when I was about 34, I started training for physique. And I definitely started then with restrictive eating, starting with, food groups and macros, and then started moving into, stacks and supplements. And that was really pulling me away from a very natural, healthy way of eating as I am now. And, maybe that's just all part of the journey, but I think that if you're listening to this and you're trying to get healthy and you're thinking about, how can you get healthy? What's a good way? Maybe you're recovering from veganism, and boy, a lot of the people who are recovering from veganism are just crawling out of the woodwork on social media, and I'm really glad to see this because they're getting over their fear of being honest and sharing their experience. And those accounts, those anecdotal accounts, need to come out, because when we start to see trends, then we can say, hey, there's an observational data here, there's an observational phenomena that a really huge chunk of people that get into veganism don't thrive. Some people do okay. A few people seem to thrive. Who knows what's going on there? Could be genetics, could be stuff behind the scenes. I've been talking with a lot of people lately in vegan recovery groups and gatherings on social media, and I'm appalled but not shocked at the number of people who talk about, cheating on veganism, and they were sort of prominent figures in the community, or they know people who are prominent figures in the community who were, either trying to get people into raw veganism or whatever, who were observed eating all sorts of animal products and still selling that message and leading people astray in the name of cheddar. That's bullshit. And that really has awakened me and angered me. There's a certain level of naivete to me, and there always has been. I don't know why. I just tend to trust people too much, and I would think at my age that would be kind of gone. But I think that I still want to believe in the best of people and the best of humanity. But in these kind of situations where people are trying to make their money and trying to have a lifestyle where they don't have to have a real job, I think there's no rules. I think it's whatever they have to do. It's manipulation, it's cajoling others, it's lying, and it's for personal benefit. And there's actually there's quite a few books about that. Hold on. So I'm reading this book right now, and this is about the evolution of humans being selfish. And there's similar writings about how lying and how deceit came about in human evolution. And I think it's really important thing to consider and think about and learn and understand humans better, and that it's never going to go away. That is something that is biologically bred into us, and it doesn't matter at what level, whether it's government, police, it's just everywhere, on the streets, in families. It's just part of our human, of who we are. We're not, there's, I think some people want to pretend that humans are really just gentle creatures waiting to expand their consciousness, when in reality, we're kind of jerks, and we can develop ourselves to be better, but at the end of the day, that means that others are just going to take advantage of you. And I've learned this like over and over in the hardest ways, as I think many people do. And I think that I grew up too trusting because I grew up in a small community of farmers, and all your neighbors helped each other. You hay one week down the road, then they come over to your house, and it was still very much a community-based living, and very religious. So there were set morals. And we're moving away from small communities, we're moving away from family, and we're moving away from any sort of moral obligation. I mean, that's just so self-evident if you look at social media. So I think, in considering that, you have to learn to protect yourself. And I would say that for any person, trying to find health and fitness, take that to heart. Take that very deeply to heart. People are just lying sacks of shit. Pardon my French. So, where was I? Let me eat a little. This is really good. This is a typical weekday meal for me. I eat a lot of turkey. I eat a lot of eggs. I probably go through maybe 4 dozen eggs a week at least. I normally have steak once a week. Sometimes I get a little bit of pork, but normally it's turkey, chicken, and then red meat once a week. I normally do sardines or some fish at least once a week, maybe some oysters. I do fruit every day. It's really nice now getting the garden fruit. I'm going to start harvesting cherries from this property this weekend. These are from Eastern Washington. Their harvest starts a little earlier than ours. I've been eating gummy berries, which are these like wonderful heirloom fruit, very astringent, just full of flavor, and been doing raspberries. None of the fruit that grows here are sugar bombs, which is something that's kind of interesting in the permaculture setting. So they're sweet, but they're not sugar bombs. They're not like some of the store fruit kind of goes one way or the other. It's like tart and styrofoam and hard as heck, or it's just like this huge sugar bomb. I feel like the fruit that you grow for yourself is like a nice medium. And often you eat 4 or 5 that are kind of tart and on the edge of sweet, and then you get one that's like really super sweet. And I feel like the sugar content for homegrown fruit is pretty different. I don't do irrigation here. I don't do heavy fertilizer. So in a natural ecosystem, that kind of, steroidal level of availability of everything for the produce doesn't exist. So any plant or tree isn't going to produce premium, highest water content, highest sugar content for every fruit. And I don't think that that's a good thing. I think that people also demonize fructose. And I see that in keto, carnivore, raw paleo. They take something and say like, fructose will give you fatty liver. And then they turn all fruit into, demon food. And the reality is, if you look at the science, fructose typically in nature comes in a package in sucrose. And sucrose is one glucose molecule and one fructose molecule. And sucrose is the predominant sugar in fruit. There are some fruits like persimmon, for example, that is more glucose than fructose. But fructose actually helps the body get glucose into the cells. So it actually helps upregulate the uptake of glucose. Now, sort of these fractured foods like high fructose corn syrup, that's entirely something different. But I think that the fructose in fruit is beneficial, actually. And I think that eating a little bit of fruit with a big heavy meal like this, I don't notice any digestion disruption. And in fact, if anything, I notice that I feel really good afterwards, and I'm having really positive benefits both in like weight loss, in athletic performance, and just in overall general wellness. So those are some of my thoughts on that. I'm probably still eating, I would say that I'm still on a keto diet, and that every day I go into ketosis. I tend to eat a really huge meal like this, and then a couple of snacks, and then maybe a smaller meal after work. So I'm so busy at work, I generally I don't sit down for a meal. I just snack. I might graze a little bit on this or that, maybe some nuts, maybe some jerky, maybe an apple, something along these lines. And then after work, I have a smaller meal, similar to this, but smaller. So it's going to be a little bit of meat, maybe some veg, maybe a little bit of fruit, but maybe a third or half the calories of what I'm eating now. So I still go into ketosis. And so there's a lot of different ways you can have a ketogenic diet. A ketogenic diet, and the thing that so many high carb, low fat vegans argue is that, not eating fruit, not eating sugar is not natural for you and blah, blah, blah. And there's certainly people who approach ketogenic diets in that way. But ketosis simply means that you are fat adapted. So your body's adapted to tapping into your fat stores for energy throughout the day. And without question, that is happening to me. And I wake up in ketosis, and I tend to fast for a little bit after waking up, depending on the day, So, my approach is I'm probably, depending on the day and if I'm working out, if it's the day before a workout, I probably am going to bump up to about 60, 70 grams of carbs. And then that's going to, make sure that I have good glycogen stores for that next workout. And then I do a really intense workout. And then that day I'm probably at 40 or 50 grams of carbs, and I'll normally eat those. Like today I had nectarines right before working out, and now I'm having fruit right after, and then that's it for the rest of the day. And in my opinion, physiologically, that's when you need it the most. So I'm sort of, biohacking, doing a little bit of carb backloading. I did carb cycling for the meat, as I mentioned in the last video, and it's all just kind of like once you start to learn really good nutrition and good physiology and how your energy systems work, it's really fun to just kind of like work that system and be a little bit flexible in your ideologies and sort of maximize your efforts and maximize your physiology. It's super fun. Oh, this is such a good meal. I was just checking out my Instagram, and this guy who kind of was inspired by me to get into veganism, or at least that's what he said, just got himself cited doing a vegan protest in Whole Foods. I hope that works out for him in the long run. I honestly have nothing but goodwill for people who follow the vegan path and are sold on it, but I just know myself and so many others who bought into it only to be, undercut and have real difficulties and then dealing with the fallout of that reality. And I've been seeing that Doug Graham is going to be working with this kid that's one of the top NBA draft picks. Oh man, that's so fucked up. Oh god. But everybody has their own paths in life, and they have to learn their own lessons. I wish for me that social media had been more developed when I got into it, and that there were opportunities to see these kind of videos and the kind of videos that other recovering vegans were doing, and I might have tempered my enthusiasm and been a little bit more restricted in my experimentation. So I think some good can come out of this. But I guess that's where I wanted to wrap up this mukbang, is just by talking about my thoughts about all of these people coming out of the woodwork with their stories and the strength that happens in numbers. I think a lot of people were really afraid or just tired of getting harassed by vegans, and I'm still getting every day harassed by vegans. And And I just don't understand it. It says so much more about vegans than it does me. I personally never, as a vegan, went and harassed people. And I think if you're harassing people and you think you're funny by, leaving rude comments, what are you doing with your life? Like, I barely have time to do a video with no editing. What are you doing with your time? You're a desperate person. You are a sad and lonely person. You are a person who needs a hobby. And I say that with all deference. Like, when you get to the end of your life, you ask yourself, where did I spend my time? Where did I spend my hours? And did it make me happy, or did it make a difference in the world or to anyone in my life and community? Spending hours leaving shit comments on people's social media, I don't think is going to be on that list. So feel free to leave your comments if you want, but maybe you'll hear this and just ask yourself, what am I doing with my time, and what could I be doing with my time that would be more value added to myself, my personal development, and the world at large. That's it for this mukbang. Nice to see and hear from you all. Hope you're all well. Take care.